You are listening to the Why Smart Women podcast, the podcast that helps smart women work out why we repeatedly make the wrong decisions and how to make better ones. From relationships, career choices, finances, to faux fur jackets and kale smoothies. Every moment of every day, we're making decisions. Let's make them good ones. I'm your host, Annie McCubbin, and as a woman of a certain age, I've made my own share of really bad decisions. Not my husband. I don't mean him, though. I did go through some shockers to find him. And I wish this podcast had been around to save me from myself. This podcast will give you insights into the working of your own brain, which will blow your mind. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm recording, and you are listening on this day. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. Well, hello, smart women, and welcome back to the Why Smart Women podcast. This week, I have as my very special guest, everybody's favourite gherkin, The Gherk. And we are going to talk about an episode in our lives that took on, I think, some very interesting, I don't know, how would you describe what happened to us, The Gherk?
It's definitely.
Hello, welcome, by the way, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, thanks for having me back on. Appreciate it, and thanks for thanks for. Yeah, we had a riot, didn't we? And
We had a
brought
riot.
in all sorts of weird and
Trouble.
wonderful people. Some allies and some
Yeah.
not so allies. So it all started with a brisk afternoon stroll. I think you found yourself
Yep.
passing the forest.
Brunch. I was having brunch in DY,
Lovely.
and I chanced upon the forest of the fallen.
Yes. We need some music, solemn
We
music
need
there.
music
So,
under that, solemn music.
yeah, that's it. So it's an interesting juxtaposition, the forest of the fallen, because in some way they've printed out it's a juxtaposition for lots of reasons, but so they've printed out these laminated placards, and we've talked at length about that. Most of them are just online anecdotes. I've done a deep dive on about 100 of them.
All right, so just let me backtrack. What they do is they have laminated pictures of people that have presumably all been murdered by the vaccine, and they are laminated and they're stuck on sticks, and it's sort of like some sort of temporary sort of postmodern graveyard. And,
that's it. And they pitch themselves as telling the story that, the government's trying to hide. And so a lot of these are self-submitted. I and a few others have submitted quite a few of these fake stories, and a couple have gotten through, which we'll reveal another time. And there should have been, it was a test to see if anyone was betting bees. I did send one as the Gherk. That didn't get through. So there is a level of that's it. The Gherk is dead. But there are we know we've got two through that we know are completely made up, and they've used fake medical terms. We'll reveal them at a later point.
Fake medical terms is awesome.
That's it. So, but we'll reveal that another time for the authors or the organisers of the Forest of the Fallen. You will put to revealing those gems.
And the point of this sort of postmodern looking installation is to ensnare passers-by. So you're trotting along, and then you look and you go, oh, what's this? And then someone rushes at you and goes, these are the deaths of people from the vaccine. And of course, they're spreading this desperately bad disinformation. Yeah,
that's right. And so, but where the juxtaposition one of many juxtapositions come into it is you can't actually take up close photos of them because they want zero scrutiny, they want zero inquiry, they don't want any of that. So unfortunately for them, people like yourself and some others have taken a lot of up close photos, and it's allowed us and a team of other people to do some really good deep dives on these. And so it sounds a little bit sort of morbid, but in some respects we've looked up. So a lot of coroner's reports are publicly available. We just look at social media. We even reach out to some of these people as well that are apparently
still alive.
Dead. So that's it. And some people have been mortified that their image is being used, and they're like, how is my details on there? And then they've come back to me and they've realised like their sister-in-law, who's like an anti-vaxxer, has submitted they had a motorbike accident, and then their sister-in-law put that down as
Dead from the vaccine.
A vaccine injury. I mean, there are some real egregious ones, like where a chap literally, like they sadly, like it, they live up to the meme where a guy did die in a genuine car accident. Really sad. The mum had posted on that because he received the vaccine 2 days prior, that must have caused it because his reflexes wouldn't have. Yeah, so it's just, and there's a sad one. Do you know Dave O'Neig's? He's pretty prominent anti-vaxxer.
I know O'Neig's.
Yeah, so his sister sadly passed away about back in
2016.
Was 2016. Well, she and now credit my one thing to Dave O'Neig's. This had nothing to do with him. Just make it really clear. But he's correct in terms of. Sorry, I don't mean to imply the death either, but like he didn't submit her details for the Forest of the Fallen, but there is a placard with her on there. And so he rightly so skitzed it publicly and said, these guys are just off the charts. Now, when Dave O'Neill says that you're off the planet.
You are off the planet.
You are off the planet.
You're out in the stratosphere, right, if he thinks that. And I just want to say about her that the very sad thing about his sister is that she committed suicide.
Yeah.
In 2016, which is 8 years prior to when we had the vaccination. So the vaccination has some astonishing reach, doesn't it, to go back?
Yeah, so
yeah.
And they're not even saying, because vaccinations were a thing back then, but they're saying that it was the mRNA vaccines and stuff. So again, we don't know who submitted that work, but it is a really good representation of the level of or lack of level of scrutiny or cross-referencing to any of these. Like it is just an open source thing, and so I won't, we've got a page called Forest of the Fallen Laminated Lies. It's a little bit of a cheeky heading there, but through there we catalogue each and every one of those cases that we're able to get up close. And a lot of them we don't definitively know what the cause is, but we break it down on balance of probability. And so they talk about you tend to get the same themes along the whole thing where, I mean, they just don't feel great after, or they feel robbed of something. And a lot of it's just so a lot of the people that make submissions, so they'll talk about their vaccine
malaise,
and so it's I learned a new condition called nocebo, and it's like placebo but nocebo, and it's very typical sort of, a lot of people just said they felt a sense of dread, after the vaccine, and they felt right then. And it was very high. So we could spend an hour talking about.
We could spend an hour talking about the fact that there seems to be absolutely zero comprehension from the anti-vaxxers, and specifically around these people that propagate the Forest of the Fallen. They seem to have simply zero comprehension of correlation and causation. It just doesn't exist in their brain.
That's it. So you doing your civic duty had
taking the photos,
lovely brunch, taking your photos, and you were just swarmed by these people. And so it's a perfect.
Okay, so let's go back. She recognised me, and then he was trying to say to me, "Don't you bark, yo-yo." He was not saying that to me. That would have been silly. One of them rushed up and said, "Oh, do you want to talk to the family?" So I was like, "No, I'm good, thanks." And then she saw me, the woman that runs it, and then she monologued at me about how it was me, Annie McCubbin, had this Why Smart Women podcast. I wasn't very smart, and I was what of the Gherk? I was the good. No, what was I?
She knows the Gherk. She's friends of the Gherk. And
the Gherk sidekick.
Yeah.
Or something. And
all while this is going on, it's sort of this symphony of nuttiness. Like in the background, there's some chap, and he's like, she had an enlarged heart, and she's someone going off his just talking to confused passerbys, like Japanese tourists or something, about like how the heart was the size of fire laps, like after they'd had the vaccine. So so that was
that
so
happened. And she followed me around and filmed me. And then I went and had another coffee and pretty much just, I don't know, thought, oh, that's that. And then went about my business and had another couple of very nice glasses of wine that night. And then the next morning I woke up and Rosemary Marshall and the Plague Rats, who run their very good page, had said, look what we found, good on you, Annie. And it was the video that she had filmed of me and she'd uploaded. And at that point, it only had about 4,000 views, but it went nuts, right? Snarky.
Yeah. And so then I shared it, and I think it's been shared 20,000 times or something, and
80,000.
80,000. Wow. And so
180.
it's sort of backfired on her because it's not the thing like, and this is the second time Rosemary's shared something that she's thought it sort of was like a cell phone. So
Yeah.
she thought, oh, this'll show them, and it's completely backfired. Like the internet's done its thing. There was about a year ago, she was at a protest in Sydney, and there was, I was giving that a bit of coverage, and again, it was just the clown car of just every oddball and every grievance
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Pretty
Yeah.
poor turnout, big scheme of things. I think it was in Hyde Park or something.
Yeah.
And so she's filming it and she's like, this will upset Snarky Gherkin. And so I'm like, that is
Yo,
completely unhinged. Like one of
I
her
know.
one of her disciples sent it to me and said,
Yeah.
what do you think of it? I said, that is the nuttiest thing ever. Who is going to Hyde Park or any demonstration
Yeah.
and ranting about filming themselves yelling about a cartoon gherkin? Like
Gherkin.
none of
I
this is
know.
normal. And so it's the second time. So in what's important, so where it sort of gets a bit sad and not necessarily sinister, but I think just outright sad is that in that video with you, she then started talking about a particular mother of a vaccine victim,
Have been
and that
harangued. I am still getting
yeah.
harangued about that by the cookers.
So
By
that
the way,
that that opened up a sort of you still are okay.
yes,
That sort of they've eased off with me. I mean that opened up a secondary story arc where it sort of goes full circle in that during the Forest of the Fallen laminated lie inquiries, one of the most high profile cases that we talked about and did a bit of a deep dive on was
oh
a
yeah.
young. Now I'm not going to. Do you mind if
Don't
I go
mention her
into
name.
it or? No,
Don't.
I don't think I will. Because it's just not necessary for the context of the story. But genuinely, so looked into it. Now I've been approached by so just to make it clear, this young lady did pass away, and
And it's
the
very sad.
time it is a really sad story. So the short version of a longer story, and the timeline is somewhat debated here. So I'll give the mother of this person the benefit of
Yeah.
of,
True.
of, of that's that. But what happened was, so they'd received the vaccine, and 46 days later they were experiencing. Now this is back in 2021, so pretty much the height of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Lives in semi-rural Australia, I'd say.
Mm.
Would you say that? I think not
Mm.
quite full
Mm.
rural, but
Mm.
semi-rural.
Mm.
And so she presented at a hospital with asthmatic symptoms and had been treated that evening with Ventolin and sent home and told to rest. Now there's conflicting versions in that I've read two versions where the next day her employer had asked her to come in.
Yeah.
The victim's mother had said no. It was about 3 days later. I don't think that's necessarily here nor there. I think if you have an asthmatic episode or an asthma attack, that you're pretty much out for best part of a week.
Yep.
Especially if you work in a high trigger physical
Well, she
environment.
worked in, we won't say what environment it was, but she worked in an environment that had a lot of dust and other very, very strong, I'm an asthmatic myself, very strong asthma triggers.
Yeah, high particulate environment, and yeah, it's just and so this poor young lady went back to work a day / or 3 days later. There had been some text messages shared with her friends and family that she was reluctant to go in, whether she was pressured to go in or she was just a dedicated young hard
It's a bit
worker.
by the by anyway,
It's
right?
a bit by the by. I mean, yeah, or a bit of both. And so she went into work on the back of this and had been found collapsed in that high trigger, high physical
Particular.
environment, particular
Yeah.
area, and physically demanding role. And so she was either, I don't know whether she was declared deceased there or shortly after once she'd been taken to hospital. So really sad story. Unfortunately, now I've been approached by a sibling of this young woman and her close friend as well. They've both confirmed that she had known asthma or asthmatic sort of issues in the couple of years leading up to it.
Yep.
And they have both sort of said, they're both gutted that she's being used in this way. The mother has been, immediately surrounded by this ecosystem of, this anti-vax kind of network. She was used by a particular fringe political party to give testimony at they call it a Senate inquiry. I mean, it was a bit of a clown show. Nothing came of it. There was no evidence. Nothing was concluded. Now we don't have any. So the coroner's report had been requested to be kept private, that's a family request. So the family had requested that. However, the mother has said publicly that there had been traces of myocarditis found in her daughter's heart. There'd been some chemical markers on that.
And what conclusion did she come to about the myocarditis? I bet I know.
That's right. Now I've posed that you are multiple times more likely to develop myocarditis from
the actual vaccine, the COVID itself.
COVID infection. That's right, and it's normally more severe as well if contracted when from the vaccine. So I mean, I grant that. Yeah, she may have had myocarditis. Could she have had contracted COVID during that time? This is the peak of the pandemic. The reason she was discharged from hospital so quickly, which I think she was let down, but some credit to the hospital staff is they may not have had the capacity to treat her accordingly, or that they probably weighed up the risks in the sense that the hospitals were inundated with COVID patients. And so I guess it's a balance between, do we keep a asthma sufferer who's having an asthma attack in this environment in a high COVID, during a respiratory pandemic, or do we send it home? So there's some questions there. I think the reason I felt compelled to make such a song and dance about this particular story is because I think it just gives too much of a convenient boogeyman and get out clause for genuine failings that should have been explored and pushed further. So, what was the responsibility of the employer to insist that no, she needs signing off before she comes back to work? This is not appropriate. I know that there was probably a high dependency on her in that in that workforce, but and this is just my opinion. I don't know. Like there's some issues around maybe the hospital care may not have been adequate, but again, it was in the midst of a respiratory pandemic. There's all sorts of questions. And so the mother then reached out to me publicly. I've invited her to discuss with me privately.
Hang on, back it up a bit. So this happened, and then the picture of the woman that we know, the woman that has unfortunately died, we know that she was actually pro-vaccine. Now, her picture is laminated and part of the Forest of Fallen. I've taken a photo of it. And then the mother has reached out to you and said what?
Oh, so just to back up slightly, so the former, I guess still best friend and one of the siblings both said that they both acknowledged that this person had asthma. They both also acknowledged that she was pro-vaccine, and she'd sort of a little bit tongue-in-cheek used to mock her mum a bit and be, so
her mother is a bit prone to conspiracy theories, correct?
Well, yeah, she had, according to the friend and sibling, they've always been an anti-vaxxer, or have been for quite a few years, definitely before the pandemic. It was always a little bit of an eye roll. They'd sort of, cheekily sort of mock their mum a bit, like, like sort of, and it wasn't until this tragedy had struck that it became a lot more sinister and more overwhelming. Like it's become their entire identity now. So this person, now I felt mortified at first because I don't want to bring up the nonsense, but you've got Rosemary shouting this lady's name in public, and to you, that talking about her mother, and she was devastated and things like that. And I've just they've threatened to sue me over it. I've just said if there's anything I've presented here that is not factually, or that is not accurate, please provide me with contrary evidence. So I can't accept the anecdotes from anybody. I'm just trying to base this off information that is publicly available and basing it on balance of probability. And so nothing's been produced yet. I mean, I had all these sort of bots and ghouls and fake accounts and things, demanding that I publicly debate the mother, and it's like, why would I do that? Like, what?
Why would you do
Why?
that?
But I
Just
have
false
invited the.
equivalence. It's false
That's it.
equivalence. I'll have nothing to do with it.
That's it. So I've invited the mother to discuss with me privately. Now I've had her, I guess you'd call them liaisons, try to orchestrate something. They want me to go to her public group and have it out with her there. And so it's this real, to me,
It's
I don't know.
theatre. It's all
It's
theatre.
theatre.
It's
That's
all
it. And so
theatre.
I put myself in her shoes. So I've got young daughters, and I think genuinely, if one of my daughters had died through for any reason, if they died from a dog attack, and then suddenly some bizarre page I've never heard of was making claims that one of my daughters haven't sort of
Yeah.
didn't die in that way. The
Yeah.
last thing I'd do is, well, do you want to debate me in a public group? Like
I know, right?
I'd probably ignore it. But if it just
Yeah.
became something I couldn't ignore, then I'd probably talk to them privately and say, mate, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, and these are the reasons.
But it's not about that. And also they
that's right.
they they tend to, and I noticed this when they were following me around filming me, and also in the delightful follow-up deluge of trolling that I had, is they seem to think that they have cornered the market in grief, and you
Yeah,
must not question them because this is a grievous story and we are
yeah,
nothing but, and we are uncaring, but we are the
yeah,
opposite. And to your point, all that's done by co-opting the story and putting it in a corner it doesn't belong in. It then reduces the chance that there will be analysis about what actually went wrong, which is
yeah,
wrong,
yeah.
right?
So they are almost the personification of grief farming,
Yeah.
really. And it's they and this is I'm talking about the actual the forest people here, not the
Forest
genuine
people.
grieving family of
Forest people.
the forest people. We'll call them eliminated forest people, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
that they are grief farming at this point. Probably a bit of recreational outrage. I mean, for them, you see their interactions. It's fun for some of these people. Again, I'm just to distinguish. I'm not talking about the family or the mother of
No, no, no,
this
I know
poor woman
you're
we're talking
not.
about.
It's
Moving
the
on,
people
yeah.
that run the Forest of the Fallen.
It's a buzz. Like we sort of joke. We have the lady that runs it. We have her husband frequently come on the page. Now they're
Oh,
both. Would it
frequently.
not being an ageist, but would it be fair to say both of them are both retired? Is
Oh,
that right?
I
They're
think
both
they'd be
retired.
retired, and I think they have
They
an
well and
awful lot
truly.
of time on their hands.
But they
And
just
yeah,
yeah
yeah.
they just spend just abusing people with the most vile language. It's like, does your daughter know that you speak to people on the internet this way? Like, do
I
you speak like
know.
this in front of your grandkids? That
And
that
also,
you
it's such,
you know
back to the
yeah
psychology
yeah
of it, it's such shocking
yeah
projection because they were
yeah
like, who are you to be so rude? I was not rude. I
yeah
was extremely restrained and quite friendly and polite, but I'm
yeah
apparently rude. And now I'm your drunken. Oh, then I released a little video because I had a chat to Martin Bella and
oh
he's
yeah
just
yeah
a go at Annie. He's hilarious. So I
yeah.
released a video in which I was
We love
drinking a
Bella.
glass of wine because I can't stand that earnest crap that people post. It drives me nuts. So I was having a bit of
Yeah
a glass of wine. So, whoa, well, I'm your
yeah yeah.
drunken sidekick. It was all about my
That's
appearance,
it.
how ugly
Yeah
I am, and I'm a drunk. And oh my God, it was
yeah.
astonishing.
There's this young lady that comments a bit. She's quite factually based, and the husband was in the comments, and she said that doesn't make sense, or that's different to what you said. He goes, quiet trollop, to the
Yeah,
reply, and it's like, what? Like
what?
so it's just yeah. I mean, they're off the charts. Yeah. So, but the way I put it, it's sad. Like these for them are their sort of their autumn years, and they're just spending
Drowning
out
in
like
vitriol.
they'll post 17 times a day at 20-minute
Yeah,
intervals, and
right,
it's
right.
like, guys, like, just go out and enjoy yourselves. Like, this isn't the 70s. Like,
And
you're not rebelling against maybe in the
the
70s they
war.
were.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I feel like they probably missed out on that sort of whole movement, and they're probably just busy raising a young family and working and not
Having a
around.
life.
It's like this is like a not a midlife crisis, but like a post-life crisis where they want to try and relive their
The
youth
glory
and
days,
yeah,
the
the
glory
glory days,
days
and
of, yeah.
it's turned into this bizarre sort of, I don't
It
know,
is
like
very, very bizarre.
mm,
I did I did a talk about it. I've got to send that to you, by the way. I did a talk
Oh yeah.
about it, a hilarious talk, if I may say, at the Skeptics in the pub. And
Yep.
I talked about you and talked about Martin. It was really cool. And then I put up some of the comments, and the room went quiet. They were like, "Are you
Yeah.
serious?" Because people are not exposed to that
Yeah.
level of sort of vitriol and viciousness. They were
Yeah.
really stunned. And not only that, but I had sort of mitigated it. So I didn't
Oh
even
yeah.
put the worst of it up because I don't want to make them bring up their pub meal. So I'd sort of put some fairly
Yeah.
benign ones. They were stunned. And I think
Are you still getting unhinged voice notes and
I
things
still get
in your
I
messages?
do,
Like,
and I get people
yeah.
they're trying to friend me. And then
Oh yeah.
it was only last week I had the one saying that clearly I'm a sad woman and I'm you. And
Yeah, that's it. This isn't the first time that
I've
it's
been
been
you,
alleged
and also David's been
multiple
you.
times. That's
There's,
it.
I have a son and a daughter that still haven't been you, but there's still time. I don't know.
There's still time. I could be one of the dogs as well. Someone I had
Yo-yo is you.
there was one guy, he was very self-congratulatory and he's like, haha,
Haha.
David, you better be more careful. And it's like,
No,
who's
Matt.
David? And
It was Matt.
Matt.
No,
Oh
what?
no, that's separate. No,
Which
that's
one was
like so.
this? Oh,
Oh,
David.
so this, yeah, and they're like, be more careful, David. Are you still an actor? And it's like, I don't know who David is, and no, I'm not an actor. And then I realized I was talking about your husband. And it's like, that's not who I am. It's like, well, that's what you would say. And it's like, but
Yeah,
they're like,
hey.
don't worry, I'll protect your identity. It's just sort of like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's not me. But no, I've been about seven people now. The latest one is Maddie T.
Who is that? Where
And
did they get that from?
so there's a guy. So he's actually reached out to me. He's a really nice chap.
Good thing.
He's amazing. Again, unhinged messages, this and that. I will get him. I might even bring him on here onto the pod just to have a chat because we did that once before with other David from Vaccination
He was
Station.
lovely.
He's a really nice guy. We need to bring him on
Do
again
you
because
have
he
to
was
be
fab.
David to actually be on the podcast, though? Do you have to be a David?
I think so.
Right.
I think
Right.
so. So, but yeah, so I'm Manny T, and I think where they've got this from is because in his bio he talks about how he debunks.
Oh,
So he's involved in like he's a software engineer, but
hmm.
he defragments stuff or it's some technical IT
Oh,
thing,
yes. You've
and
said a word there that actually I nearly got. Yep.
yeah, that's it. And so I think they think that that's what I am or whatever because it's like oh he debunks information
Must be him.
and stuff. So it's him. So I don't know how they've drawn that conclusion. He sounds nothing like me. One of them even posted it. They're getting a little bit creative with the image sharing stuff, and they've created a picture of me and Matty T to like hugging or whatever, and it's like, and they're going to reveal. So they're claiming they're going to go to his place of work and take
Y-
the placards there.
Take them
Uh,
there. Great.
and so I said
Yeah.
to Matty, like, and he's like, Matt, I'm self-employed, so they can
They
go
can do
for
what
it.
they like.
Like they
Go
can
hard. Go hard.
go to my office, quote unquote, and hang out the front, sort of thing. So they've got no idea. One time I was also I forget her name. I was a lady that apparently during one of the protests or the anti-vax protests, this lady in a green dress, way classier than I'll ever be.
Oh,
She was
green.
filming them, calling them f-wits and laughing
Oh,
at them
that's
and
you.
stuff. And
That's
so
you for sure.
they've said that must be me because she was wearing green and I'm green
You're
and yeah.
green.
So
But
it's
how do
just
they get you? How do they get me for you? Because the guy was so definitive that he got me, and I was this pathetic, sad woman. But have they not ever listened to us? Like, how did? How
no,
did
but they
know?
just say I'm just some rando that sort of
Talking to
I
me,
I don't
and
know
I'm you.
like yeah. None
Okay.
of this has ever made sense. They can't articulate it either. This is what this is this is why we are where we're at. If yeah,
And
it's
I think that's you've actually nailed it. Is that there? Nothing makes sense, but the mental gymnastics that they jump through in order to reach
yeah,
a sort of preordained conclusion is the point. They just want
that's
the
it.
conclusion. So anything, it's just the biggest, fattest dose of confirmation bias on the planet.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
it is. This is what the conclusion I want to come to. So I'm going to post rationalize. I'm going to use motivated
Yeah.
reasoning, and I'm going to use confirmation bias. You are her, end of story. And anything that doesn't fit that is
Yeah.
just chucked out, right?
They find, yeah, that's right. So what I've found with some is they find it more unsettling that I'm probably just someone normal and not necessarily that remarkable in the sense that bothers them more because in their brains everyone they are the 99% and everyone's behind them, and it's the 1% elites and shadowy cabal who are trying to go against him. So in
Oh,
their brains, it's like, no, I've got to be more important or impactful or remarkable in real life than
yeah.
I really am
Like, do you think you have
because,
like an underground, some sort of underground cellar arrangement with a whole lot of screens and all that sort of stuff, and you sit down
yeah,
and
that's
you
it.
reckon
That's they.
with a patch on one
I've
eye?
heard them say that, like that I'm funded by ASIO and
Yeah, of course.
I work for the Australian Institute, or yeah,
Yeah.
there's some grand, I'm funded by, yeah, I don't know, like there's some, that's what they need to tell themselves. So I'm none of those things. Happy to run with it for, as part of the allure of it all, but it's I'm pretty unremarkable, and I
And
think that's
also,
sort of concerns them more.
neither of us are paid by Big Pharma, which I've now been accused of.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's not to get too grandiose, but sort of like that the sort of 9/11 conspiracies where
Yeah,
it's harder to come to terms with the fact that
it's ordinary.
this all happened with just guys with box cutters, not cases with box cutters.
Yeah.
Something so primitive in a lot of ways can do something so impactful. Not comparing us to 9/11 hijackers, but
No, but
but in their minds it needs to be no. Then they weren't normal, like they weren't nutcases. They were a part of the Saudi Arabian royal family, and
yeah.
the Jewish Mossad had helped them, and all this like big kind of, I
Yeah,
don't know, like
there's a brain
it's
bias where we
yeah,
cannot conceive that large events can have a small and ordinary cause.
that's right, yeah,
Large
and
events
so
must have something that's equally sort of
equally,
malevolent and dark and large, and it's not true.
that's it, yeah,
It's the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. It's
yeah.
exactly the same. Robert F. Kennedy, you know who?
Yeah, yeah, JFK.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's right.
wishful
So
thinking.
it's I'm Dan Andrews, or I'm Malcolm Turnbull, or I don't know, name the person that you don't like, and
Albo
we're all in
currently nobody
cahoots. And
likes him, or social
yeah,
media isn't very
well,
happy.
you would think so. I was just looking at some. I'm going to make a post about it. I went back to on the. Have you heard of the Wayback Machine?
The what? No, tell me.
The Wayback Machine. So it's a plugin or an app where you can set a date. So you can go back to say January 2025,
Yeah.
and it's the internet as of that date. And
What?
so it's all the headlines. And so it's really good. I've been using it for work a little bit around evidence gathering. And so it's really
Yeah.
good. So like if someone says something or promotes something and they delete it, well, the Wayback Machine, you can go back to a particular date and you can see it before it was deleted.
Wow.
So yeah, the reason I came across it was I was actually reading about I won't bore you too much. I was reading about a Supreme Court case where I think it was like it was like some soap company and they're getting sued, and they
Not
were,
Johnson and Johnson.
no, it wasn't Johnson and Johnson.
It's an interesting case, but anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is, and they had claimed that no, they never, and they basically scrubbed the internet from this claim that they've been making, and so the first time that the Wayback Machine was used as evidence in court, because they're like, well, if we go back to, and so I'm like, oh, what's this Wayback Machine? Now I've gone way off track. But anyway, I was on the Wayback Machine looking
You
around,
had
and
me.
that's it, and I took us back to January 2025,
Uh-huh.
and there were 10 polls in the space of 4 weeks that came out that had Peter Dutton as the preferred prime minister and leading in the polls and surging. And I just thought, like, wow, like I forgot all about that completely. We're
And
sort
what
of living
happened?
through
And then
another.
what happened? How did he end up in the as a dumpster fire?
Wow, that's it. So it was the worst loss that the Liberal Party had ever suffered since like 1934 or something. So they got absolutely roasted. So I just sort of going down this rabbit hole a bit. It's like, well, it's what they call astroturfing, and so it's when the media and I don't know
What's
if
that? Well,
it's
hang on. What's astroturfing?
so astroturfing is forcing. So you just overwhelm public opinion with a
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
stance or take, and so and so you're forcibly putting this thing front and center of everybody to try to
Yeah.
change the conversation.
Yeah.
So
Which it
now
does.
it does. Now I don't necessarily think it's as sinister as that they're all sitting in Murdoch HQ and well, although I do think that they
Actually, I
do
do
purposely
think
set
they are.
narratives. Yeah, actually, I do think that. Sorry, what I mean, I don't think all media outlets have, the smoking man is dropping a
Yeah.
dossier of what they have to talk about this week.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are.
Smoking man. It's funny.
I do think that they are like the algorithm rewards certain headlines, and whether that be by design or accidental.
Well, let me tell
And
you that I
so,
was walking through
mm,
Woolies yesterday, just prior
yeah,
to us having a 2-hour blackout, which I don't need to go into, but it was
yeah,
very strange. Anyway, and I saw a headline on a daily, is it Telegraph or the Mirror? I haven't read a newspaper for about 20 years. And
yeah.
it said, Pauline Hanson, Pauline Hanson calls for stricter security amid terrifying ordeal. It was that sort of
Yeah,
thing. And I was like, oh, that's going to be about her at the press club when
yeah.
when the
That yeah.
who are they?
The
Get Up, when Get Up dropped
get
the
up.
banner,
That's
right?
it.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Mm.
then just for people that live overseas, we have a hard far right party emerging with a particularly inarticulate leader, and she spoke at our national press club, and it was wow, just astonishingly dreadful. But in the middle
Mm.
of it, a banner was dropped by an activist organisation that sort of actually talked about some of her prior policies. Fine. So what's happened is then the press, or this part of the press, instead of talking about the fact that she was talking, a big lot of populist extremist nonsense, has focused
Mm.
on the fact that how did they get in and drop the banner, and it's some
Yeah.
sort of left-wing plot. And of course then you have people walking past and coming past with their raisin toast bread and butter and milk and going, yeah, that's right, she was in danger. And there you have it, right?
That's it. That's it. So Barnaby Joyce said, who's the what is he? He's not the deputy
I don't know
leader. I
what
don't know what
he
he is.
is.
But he's like, it could have been a bomb. But it's the irony. The irony is the lady that's based her entire political career on performing stunts
Yeah, I know.
is feels unsafe that someone's pulled a stunt. But for our overseas listeners as well, like she is tremendous. And I speak to like friends in the UK and Europe and the US and stuff. Like she is tremendously underwhelming for a quote unquote populist far right figure. At least with you've got Farage who.
Yeah, yeah.
You can go on YouTube and look up
He's
some
dishing it
pretty
out, right? He's
funny.
dishing it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I remember back in the 2010s when he'd
Yeah,
been
yeah,
in
yeah.
European Parliament, he'd have his few little jingles here and there, and they were
Yeah,
quite
yeah, yeah.
entertaining. And
Yeah.
they'd get a smirk. Or Le Pen, she's a bit
Yeah.
cheeky, a
Le
bit
Pen.
saucy
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
but she
She's a
just
bit
doesn't
saucy,
have,
Le Pen. Yeah.
doesn't have any of that. Like she really struggles to articulate.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just don't think she's comparable. I mean, even Trump was entertaining. It was
Yeah, yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah, but yeah,
Not
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
It's just sad. But I mean, in the lead up to the
Yeah.
2016 stuff, those
Sure.
primary things were
Yeah.
Republican primary debates and stuff were like
Yeah.
it was like jaw dropping. But
Agree. Agree.
yeah, so she doesn't have any of the charisma
No, or
or social
intellect.
skills of it. Yeah, and so it's a bit we don't quite have the fun and excitement of a real
No, we really don't.
populist.
It's the
But
best. It's a bit sad.
it is.
It,
But what I was getting at it before, it's just we've sort of been through this. I've got friends that send me, like, oh shit, she's up in the polls again, and it's like we had all this before with Dutton, and none of it came to any fruition. In fact, Dutton was higher than she was, and it's like it's just it's the same. And I don't want to sound like a MAGA supporter in 2015 and just call all polling nonsense.
yeah,
I think there's something to it, but again, it's just such a small sliver
it
of
is such a small sliver, and of course, it gets in those sort of simplistic notions of, who can I blame next for my electricity bill? they're very, very appealing to a person who feels disenfranchised and
Mm.
angry. And there it is. It's a simple. It is unfortunately simple, easy to digest notions that
Yeah.
are the easiest to jump on the back of and run. That was a terrible mixed metaphor. I had horses and chewing, but
Yeah.
anyway, you get
No,
what I'm
it's true though.
saying, right?
It's simple answers to complicated. I call
Everything's
it bumper.
complex. Yep.
Yeah, I call it bumper sticker solutions. People want a
Yep.
bumper sticker, and
They
so
do.
she's a bumper sticker politician.
Yep.
She does well on the bumper sticker front, but it doesn't. None of it ever stacks up when it comes to scrutiny or daylight. So
No,
yeah,
and of course, her senators keep getting, being done. Their criminal past keeps coming out and being exposed. So that's not ideal, is it? And
mm,
there's all that's going on. I think it's just going to be. Oh, I don't know. I don't like reading it. It gets under my skin because then I
yeah,
start feeling really concerned at people's capacity to understand complex matters. that
yeah.
that, that upsets me that everything is sort of small and derivative, so we don't ever get to the meat of what's actually going on here.
But
We just
that's
yeah,
yeah. I mean that's partly why we're here, though, isn't it? Or do what we do because I
yeah,
get that people are busy and they it like I don't blame anyone for not wanting to read about complex policy on their way to work or way home.
yeah.
So I feel that's what we're sort of pushing against a little bit, that we're trying to show people how to get the information about that or provide our opinions. I think that's why people value our opinions about this sort of thing. We're not always right, but
I'm
it's
always right.
yeah,
I can't
well,
believe you said that.
yeah, David agrees with me.
Yeah,
See, if
always.
I was your husband, I wouldn't have pushed back
You
against
would
you on that.
never have gone down that
Oh,
route, would
that's
you?
right. That's right.
Very
So proof.
dangerous.
That's
Very,
it.
very dangerous. Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Well, there's a lot. Maybe next time we can leave the forest of the fallen to its inevitable chopping down. I'm full of
Yes.
metaphors this afternoon, aren't I?
Yes,
Narky,
you
thank
are.
you.
You are.
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on the chopping block, as
it's
as
on
they
the
say.
chopping block. And then
For
I
sure.
think we'll have a shot. Let's go next time and have a shot at the political landscape because it is a febrile and interesting area
Yeah,
to deep dive into, is it not?
it is. We'll try to make it exciting. Australian politics has a somewhat of a dullness to it, which I think is good. It's
It
got this
is
sort of
good.
it is a good thing. I found myself watching UK Question Time again because it's a little bit more fiery and a bit more punchy than Australian Question Time. But I don't know, boring is good because I
I
think
think
good government is
need
boring. Yeah,
we need boring.
yeah,
But I do go back to the fact that I visited my father-in-law this afternoon in his nursing home, and every
mm,
single person working in that nursing home, compassionately, kindly dealing with some very difficult people, was from
mm,
Nepal. I just
yeah.
want to
Good on
say
them.
that, just
Yep,
absolutely delightful. So
that's
I
it.
don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know about the monoculture, but let's see how we go with that.
No, that's a whole other episode itself. My closing note on that, and I've sort of toying with this idea a bit and doing a bit more exploration, but just to sort of summarize a bit on sort of the Hansonites and what they stand for. Like
Mm.
my theory is that biggest the three policies that would have the biggest impact on reducing the reliance on skilled migration would be free or heavily subsidised childcare, free
Yep.
TAFE and subsidised university,
Yep.
and make housing cheaper. And so, if we implemented those things correctly, Australia probably could have the skills that we need. Not all. We're always going to be reliant on skilled migration, but we'd definitely be having potentially could be
Mm.
having some more kids if people choose that's what they want to do.
Sure.
But One Nation have voted against all three of those
All three.
measures
Yep.
consistently. So they're not interested in reducing migration or the reliance on it.
No.
They are just, it's just jingles and populist nonsense. So
Noise and
um,
fury signifying nothing,
that's it. That's right. So
if I
and on
may
that,
become lyrisk. Okay, and
that's it.
on
On that
that,
happy
I
note,
thank you so much for joining me. And
pleasure.
please, will you come back on soon?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. We're struggling to
We're
align the
struggling.
stars, aren't we?
It's all right. It's
But
all
I
right.
think
It's all right.
that's it. We'll reach out to David from Vaccination Station
Let's do
too.
it. I
So
love him.
just remind everyone that he's not me either. And
Yes,
yeah,
but
I do
who
I do
are
find it
you?
flattering because all these people are far smarter and eloquent than I am. So I do feel a bit of flattery when when they'll point to someone and say that's who it is. It's like, oh, look,
Okay.
I'm pleased you think
Cool.
I'm as smart as they are, but yeah, sure. So yeah, yeah.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you to the Gherkin and to all my listeners, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe.
Stay well. Keep your critical thinking hats on. See you later. Bye. Thanks for tuning into Why Smart Women with me, Annie McCubbin. I hope today's episode has ignited your curiosity and left you feeling inspired by my anti-motivational style. Join me next time as we continue to unravel the fascinating layers of our brains and develop ways to sort out the fact from the fiction and the over 6,000 thoughts we have in the course of every day. Remember, intelligence isn't enough. You can be as smart as paint, but it's not just about what you know, it's about how you think. And in all this talk of whether or not you can trust your gut, if you ever feel unsafe, whether it's in the street, at work, in a car park, in a bar, or in your own home, please respect that gut feeling. Staying safe needs to be our primary objective. We can build better lives, but we have to stay safe to do that. And don't forget to subscribe, rate and review the podcast and share it with your fellow smart women and allies. Together, we're hopefully reshaping the narrative around women and making better decisions. So until next time, stay sharp, stay savvy, and keep your critical thinking hat shiny. This is Annie McCubbin signing off from Why Smart Women. See you later. This episode was produced by Harrison Hess. It was executive produced and written by me, Annie McCubbin.